Now, a very good question is, where did we leave off? Okay. Eva is coughing. Alright, let me scroll a little bit. What's happening here? Ah, okay, I see. I remember. Okay. Now that question was one she herself would never answer. Alright. Hey, Bear. How have you been? It's been a while. It seemed that half asleep she had gotten some saliva caught in her windpipe just as she was dozing off. Eva suddenly started coughing.
大丈夫か、エヴァ。
Hey, Chidori.
夏希、水を頼む。
はい。大丈夫だってば。ちょっとむせちゃっただけなんだから。
I mean, lots of props to the actress. Like this sounds rough. Imagine doing multiple takes for that. Like, okay. Eva pushed away Natsuhi's hand as she tried to rub her neck. Sorry, her back. And unsteadily rose to her feet.
顔を洗ってくるわ。ごめんなさいね。寝ちゃってたわ。戻ってきたらまたコーヒーを入れるわね。特に濃い。明日の朝まで眠気が来なくなるようなやつを。
頼む。ゴーダの入れるコーヒーよりお前が入れるコーヒーの方が私の好みに合うからな。
Oh, interesting. Hey, Desalane. How's it going? Oh, good. I love that emote so much. I don't know why it always gets me. Yeah. So Eva makes better coffee than Goda. Interesting.
お世辞でも嬉しいわ。すぐ戻るわ。
Eva exited the lobby, heading for the lavatory. Kraus and Natsuhi watched over her frail back.
あなたもあれだけ犬猿の中だったエヴァさんに気を使うこともあるのですね。
本来兄とはこういうものではないのか
ね。ええ。
Well, settle is an overstatement at this moment in time, Desalane. We're here, all of our stuff is here, but most of it is still in like boxes and bags and scattered around the place and stuff. We got the essentials going, but yeah, we're kind of like all the time walking through a labyrinth of boxes. Yeah. So that's why I'm streaming without the cam, because okay, I have my desk going. Yesterday, it was just only yesterday that I took out my PC from the box, and just an hour or so before the stream I set up the mic. Right, just to be able to, you know, have the essentials going. Now that I sat down and started to stream, I realized actually I didn't take out my controller. It's in a bag somewhere behind me, but I'm not gonna reach for it now. I'm just gonna use the mouse to stream. Gonna be pure chaos for a few weeks? Yes, exactly. So we're just going at it slowly, and every day I like take a couple things, set them in the place, you know, and so on. Like over time we'll get there. Yeah. I'm glad that Umineko streams are essential. Of course they are. Of course. Yeah. I was gonna say something else, but oh yeah. It's been quite an intense time since last stream because of all the packing and moving, and then there was this Comic-Con that happened last weekend, and I really wanted to make something for it, and everything just kind of like it all just happened at once. So after we rushed to get everything here, I didn't really focus so much on settling things inside the apartment, but rather I just searched for all of my sewing things and just sewed for a week straight. I worked and I sewed, and then I slept about like 5 hours a night for a whole week until I get everything done. And then after that was done, I had to go back to the other apartment that we rented to clean it all up, to be able to give it back to the landlord in a good condition. And yesterday was the last day that I got that done. So it's only today that I'm actually chilling a little bit. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but we're getting there. And we're streaming again, so at least there's that. No cam this week, but I'll see what I can get going for next week. Alright.
それで正しいと思います。
エヴァに限らん。ルドルフにもローザにも。私がした兄らしいことといえば、それを王兵に語り、彼らをいじめただけだ。父のようになりたくて、私なりに必死だった。
No, you don't. Literally, it's all just like thrown around stuff, and some things are not even in boxes or bags anymore. They're just thrown on top of them. It's crazy. No, it's fine. Only 15 minutes before the stream did I take out the cable that connects my mic. So that's where I was, alright? I think it's an accomplishment that we're here and everything is working. Like, nothing got broken during the move. My PC and its HDDs are alive. The Umineko save is fine. All my peripherals are here. So, to me, this is a win. Ah.
だが、
At least Kraus
い
is
つもそれ
self-aware.
は及ばず、そのはけ口を彼らに向けてしまった。しかし、それは言い訳にならん。エヴァにも、まだ傷が癒えぬほどに、深い心の傷を負わせてしまっただろう。悔いているが、今さらそれを詫びたところで、その傷が癒えるわけもない。
あなたがその気持ちを今だけでなく持ち続けることで、その気持ちはきっと他の兄弟たちにも伝わりますよ。
At least there's that, because I personally don't really find many reasons to like Kraus so far. But when they give him a moment like this, where he's self-aware and contemplative of things, and he articulates them, it gives me this feeling of like, oh, they're aware at least, right? So it kind of like diminishes this negative light in which I might be tempted to see them, and that's cool, because it's good for characters to have layers and to just be human, even the characters that we don't like. So that's nice. I mean, at this point, Rosa's dead, so he can't do anything about it, but at least he's aware.
今となっては他の兄弟もエヴァを残すのみだがね。
もしあなたとあなたのご兄弟が生まれた家が後宮家でさえなかったなら、もっともっと普通な楽しい兄弟の関係であったでしょうに。
それを言ってはならん。エヴァは生涯私を憎み続けるだろう。そしてその資格がある。私はそれを甘んじて受け止めるつもりだ。
あなた。
エヴァ、すまん。もちろん許さなくていい。
もちろん許さないわ。何を今さら。悪いと思ったなら今すぐへそでも噛んで死んじゃえば。やっちゃえシエスタ姉妹。
Okay.
45射撃許可治療。射撃曲線再確認。飛行誤差修正。410へデータリンク。
Missed her? No, not really.
410データ受領。射撃許可確認。にひひひひ射撃。
Together, the sisters released the readied magic bowstring. A beautiful tail trailed the golden arrow, and it drew a beautiful curve as it flew. It was just like a golden snake. Great. Just the cuties. Yeah, they got that going for them. It skillfully avoided a grove of trees and flew towards the front door of the guest house. Then it flew into the keyhole of the door and snuck into the guest house without any problem at all. The gold snake raced down the hole smoothly, yet as fast as an arrow. Right in front of it was the door to the lobby. It would only need to fly into that keyhole and Kraus and Natsuhi would be right there. For an instant, Kraus thought he saw the door's keyhole sparkle gold. However, at the same time, he strained his eyes to see what it was that sparkle bent like a whip and attacked, wrapping itself around Kraus's neck. Just looking at it, the gold snake looked very supple. However, it was as though a wire had tightened around Kraus's neck. And while that snake choked Kraus, it extended even more and also tightened around Natsuhi's neck. Okay. Without even the chance to scream, their eyes bulged as they went into convulsions and then collapsed. Fantastic. 5 minutes in, there's murder. Yay! Oh my lord.
45命中および死亡確認。牽引曲線形成。補正点修正。410へデータリンク。410データ受領。死体牽引開始。2匹も釣れたに2匹。
The gold snake began to drag Kraus and Natsuhi's corpses back. It slipped through the door to the corridor, dragging the corpses, gradually increasing in speed. And in the blink of an eye, it had pulled them outside the guest house. Wait, I'm having so much trouble visualizing that. What? It slipped through the door to the corridor, dragging the corpses. How do you slip through the door dragging two corpses? You have to like fucking fling the thing open, no? That's why I don't understand this language or how I'm supposed to visualize it, but okay, the snake took them. Alright. I'm so confused. So the lobby was still, as though nothing had happened at all. As though Kraus and Natsuhi had never been there to begin with. Only the sound of the wind and the rain remained, as though feigning ignorance and pretending that they had been the only ones there.
ごめんなさい。もう大丈夫よ。今コーヒーを入れるわね。
Eva returned from the lavatory, but no one was in the lobby. Even though they had been in that sofa until the very moment she had choked and gone to the lavatory, they had now gone, as if they had been an illusion from the beginning.
不用心ね。二人揃ってどこに行っちゃったの？
Like she was pretending to be in a detective novel, Eva put her hand on the sofa. She felt a warmth indicating that they had been sitting there until a short while ago. Maybe they had gone to do the rounds or something. For the time being, Eva sat down and waited for their return. Beato and George could be seen in the parlor of the mansion. George was kneeling near Shannon's body as though praying. His face was sincerity itself, and there was even sweat on his forehead. However, Beato was the same. Now that she had handed her name over, most of her previous power had been lost. Rich people drama moment with Twitch Queen. Kevin. Hi, how are you? Hope things are going alright with you. Of course, she still had more than enough power to be called a witch, but compared to the past, it was a very faint thing.
いいぞ。声をかけるな。手で触れるな。心の声で呼べ。心の手で求め。そなたの強き思いだけ。シャノンの失われた魂。わらわの魔法を届かせる。
Alright. Rich in content and possibly vampire sickness? Vampire sickness? What do you mean? Are you alright? George maintained a single-minded focus. He kept frantically yelling inside his heart, trying to call back the soul of the person he loved. Ah! I get it now, okay. It's weird because as a Romanian, I really don't immediately make the connection. It's more of a tourism kind of thing. It's not... There's not an actual connection to Romania. Oh. Interesting. He strongly envisioned his soul leaving his body and searching for her as she wandered through hell. Aww. This reminds me of that movie. What was its name? What Dreams May Come? Is that the one? Makes me think of that. Beato turned that strong force into magical power, supplementing her own magic. It was magic that in the past she could have performed easily without anyone's help. But now, if she didn't rely on someone's help, she wouldn't be able to finish the chant, much less succeed. I'm correct. Alright, yes. Yep, I love Robin Williams. He's amazing. I think, yeah, even last time, I remember now, last time when it was mentioned, I had like a glimpse in my mind of that movie, and now it came back again.
数百年近くも忘れておったわ。魔法と反言とはこんなにも辛い魔法であったか。
An even more strained expression than George's had risen to Bato's face. Funny coincidence since that movie uses a lot of Dante's imagery too. I think that's why it took me there. Yeah. It was her previous magical power giving her the ability to use that magic over and over with a snap of her fingers. That was abnormal. Therefore, the heavy burden to her body and mind was by rights absolutely to be expected.
しかし、小集めの力、魔法を知らぬというのにかなりのもの。なるほど。さすがは金蔵の孫といったところか。
The strong power pouring from George was even large enough to pass as magical power. Ooh. George has the gift. At first, Beato thought it was due to the blood of the mage Kinzo. However, that was probably wrong. She had a feeling that Battler had taught her that. George's power to feel sorrow for the death of his loved one arose from the way he had tried his hardest throughout his life, from the warm time spent together with Shannon, and from the size of their shared dream, promising each other their futures. Aww. My heart. Do humans really live this seriously during their one single life? Of course they do. To her, a life didn't mean anything more than the difference between the top and bottom of an Othello piece. If the black represented death, then she thought all you had to do was flip it over again and make it white. However, it was just like that broken vase. To humans in a world without magic, where they can never return it to its original form, it is very, very natural for them to bet all their body and soul on that single life.
生死すら自在にする無限の魔女、死の山さえ越えられぬ有限の人間に劣ることもあるというのか。
Now the witch acknowledged it. He was able to hold a magical power that could not reside in witches who didn't understand the value of life. What is this thing called the endless magic for, again? Even though I call myself the endless witch, have I been forgetting what the endless magic means? For a whole 1,000 years? Oh, you think so, bad doll? She looked at George's expression again. His surging earnestness was like a lightning bolt. Right now, even if George's body was burned or smashed by a waterfall, he would probably continue to pray for his beloved without minding it, without noticing it. For the first time, she showed respect for that power. Someone is having some character growth, okay. So in that instant, all magical resistance was lost, and the enormous power of George's feelings turned into magical power in its perfect form. I do not like this song. In itself, it's nice and soothing, but because it was used in certain moments already, it just takes me back, and I do not like it. No, thank you. It's very melancholic, yeah. If you just take it completely out of context and focus just on itself, it's fine, but yeah. The vase was very, very beautiful, rich with history and value. Even as young as I was, it still forced me to take a deep breath when I witnessed its beauty. But that just made me want to touch it. But the vase easily fell and smashed into smithereens. Like a popped bubble, it felt as though the time when it had possessed a form was just an illusion. It was that fragile, that easily lost, that life. I realized that because of my own foolish curiosity, I had done something that couldn't be taken back. No matter how much I regretted it, no matter how much I apologized, the broken vase would not return to its original form. Like the music itself is lamenting the fact that Beatrice forgot the lesson she learned about the vase for so long. In this context, I guess it can be seen that way. A lost life will not return to normal no matter what happens. I was frightened by the fact that my own frivolous action, even though it had been frivolous, had stolen a life that could never be revived again. And out of pity for the lost life, I cried. Oh, really now? Out of fear of myself, who had made it become lost, I cried even more. I was sure that grandfather would also cry at the loss of his precious vase. I was sure that all of the people who thought fondly of grandfather would cry too when they saw him like that. By just the loss of a single life, the whole world would be filled with so much sadness. I cried even more at how terrible that would be. Beatrice appeared and spoke.
ならばお嬢様、この壺を魔法で蘇らせましょう。それで皆が幸せになれるなら、壺も魔法も精霊たちも喜んでそのために力を貸し、元の姿を取り戻すでしょう。さあさあ、お嬢様、目を閉じて、私と一緒にお歌を歌いましょう。さあさあ、目を閉じてごらんなさい。そして思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。 それはきっととてもとても美しい姿。どうか私にあの姿をもう一度見せておくれ。
Those words of power powerfully knocked on the door to Hades. Ooh. Okay. Her previous magic had powerfully knocked on the door to Hades in the same way. However, back then it was horribly violent and earned the displeasure of the peacefully sleeping dead. However, this time was different. It was very powerful, but it was very kind and loving. Interesting. The dead near the door opened their eyes and called out to the other dead that there was a voice calling for someone to come back. The sadness of that voice calling from the outside touched the hearts of the dead, and trying to respond as quickly as possible, they searched for Shannon's lost soul. And then they found it. They found the casket in which Shannon was peacefully sleeping. She's in a casket in the land of the dead? It truly was Shannon's soul sleeping in the land of the dead, okay. Inside a casket that was covered with rose petals frozen with frost, she was sleeping in peace. The dead silently lifted that casket up. While it looked like a funeral march at a glance, it had the complete opposite meaning. It was solemn but filled with joy. It reminded the long-forgotten dead that they continued to be loved even after their deaths, and gave them all a warm sense of peace. Then, as though guided by a warm light from the heavens, Shannon's body floated up out of the casket. The dead watched her go. They squinted at that warm light, giving their respect to this unknown member of the living, who had continued to hold on to his love for a person even after her death. Shannon's body was sucked into the light in the heavens and began to disappear. In the jet-black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. It reminded them of the gentle stars in the night sky, which they had long forgotten. George remembered being told that he must not say anything, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. However, it felt like his heart was trying to jump out of his throat, because he had seen Shannon's eyelids shake slightly. Oh my god. I'm getting goosebumps, what the hell? And then those eyelids slowly opened. Shannon's eyes were there, but they were still covered in the frost of the land of the dead. However, the warmth of the human world, no, the warmth of her loved one who had called her soul back, slowly dissolved that frost, and her eyes gradually regained their sparkle. Then her eyes moved and recognized George.
Georgie-san.
As her lips shook weakly, Shannon definitely said that. The words were very faint, so much so that they normally wouldn't even have reached his ears. However, George clearly heard them. He heard his loved one, his fiancée, the one he loved most who should have been dead, call his name once again. Aww.
Shannon, 僕がわかるかい?
ジョージさん、これは夢なの？
いや、これは夢じゃないよ。だからほら、つねっても覚めないよ。
As George said that, he softly pinched Shannon's cheek. Oh. It was how George had always responded in the past when Shannon had been surprised by something and had asked if she was dreaming. When Shannon felt the warm touch of George's finger on her cheek, and when George realized that the warmth of a living person had already returned to the cheek of his beloved, they both cried. I have no idea what this means. I don't believe people can be revived. But this is such a sweet moment. And I'm willing to let that slide. With what words should a pair of lovers separated by death celebrate their reunion? The words of the human world are not enough to celebrate that. In short, they had no need of the words of this world. Shannon sat up, and the two of them simply wordlessly hugged each other. Shannon still didn't have much strength in her, and putting her arms around George's back took all she had, so George hugged her tightly to make up for that. To stop her from ever again going to a place beyond his reach, he hugged her so tightly, and yet so gently. Shannon's fingers curled around George's back, and on her ring finger indeed shone the engagement ring George had given her. That strong sparkle was absolutely not the sparkle of diamond alone. There was without doubt a magical power there that only the two lovers could possibly feel. It was because that strong light existed that they had been able to find her casket in the land of the dead. Beato understood. That ring, no. The couple's feelings in the form of that ring had created this miracle. In that moment, George had definitely used magic. Beato had done nothing more than help him along. That magic had a magical power that could only reside in those who knew of the importance of life and trying their hardest. It was the power of a miracle that an endless witch could not know, that only the power of the finite could give rise to. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. By now, she had no choice but to accept it. She had to accept that true magic, true magical power, existed in the place farthest away from she who called herself a great witch.
ベアトリーチェ様。
彼女が君を生き返らせてくれたんだ。ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。
いや。わらわは何もできなかった。シャノンをよみがえらせたのは、そなたの魔力、そなたの魔法、奇跡を成し遂げる後宮の地。確かに見届けさせてもらったぞ。
ジョージさんが私を？
うん。わらわなど足元にも及ばぬほどの凄まじき魔力であったぞ。わらわなどまだまだ見習いの域を出ぬか。今こそ身の程を知ろうぞ。
True magic, yeah. Beato staggered backwards. Her physical strength was clearly exhausted. She had humbly said that George's power alone had revived Shannon, but Beato had also used all of her magical and physical strength. And she reflected upon how difficult it was to revive a single one of these lives, which she had toyed with however she wanted in the past. Magical girl George. Good one, good one. The couple kept each other in their tight embrace and showed no signs of letting go. Feelings that couldn't be communicated with a billion words were thus communicated between them.
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。君は僕たちの恩人だ。
ありがとうございます、ベアトリーチェ様。再びジョージ様に会わせてくださったこのご恩を決して忘れません。
よせよせ。愛し合う二人に感謝されては外道の極みと恐れられたわらわにはくすぐったすぎるというものよ。わらわのことは 気にするな。存分に。再会を祝い合え。
Beato, who was leaning her back against the wall, slid down the wall and sat. How many centuries had it been since she had last grown this tired from using magic? Probably not since the time I first succeeded in magic. Didn't Master praise me for that back then? Oh, but I myself killed that Master who praises me, didn't I? Don't be naive, Beatrice. In the end, that's what it means to kill something, right?
ようやく魔法の使い方を思い出したようですね。頭ん中酸欠でカラッカラで思い出すもヘチマもねえぜ。それよりあんた殺したじゃねえかよ。現れるんじゃねえよ。あなたが未だに私を生かしていますよ。だからこうして現れられます。もっともあなたの頭を撫でに来たわけでもありませんが、無様なわらわをわざわざ嘲笑いに来たかよ。それに隠居までした魔女が今さら頭なんか撫でられちゃ他の魔女の笑い物だぜ。
No pet pets. uh...
そうですね。一人前どころか現役を退いたと豪語するあなたなのに、今頃になって魔法の使い方を覚えたなど恥ずかしくて誰にも言えませんね。内緒にしてくれよ、お師匠様。
With a sense of pleasant despondency, Beato gazed at the couple hugging each other.
愛か。
Yes.
勝てねえな。
45データ治療。
Oh no.
射撃準備完了。弾種選定装填。410射撃2ヒ。
The golden serpentine arrow fired by the Chesters weaved its way through the bushes in the rose garden, weaved its way through the hedges, and climbed the stone steps towards the mansion's entrance, aiming for the keyhole. It weaved through the corridors and flew into the keyhole in the door to the parlor. It happened in an instant. It would have been difficult for Beato, who was completely worn out, to have noticed it beforehand. Okay then. Right before Beato's eyes, the gold snake that flew in through the keyhole spun circles around the two lovers and pierced through their two hearts in a blink of an eye. And with meticulous precision, that gold snake ran through that hole in Shannon's chest once more. The two had been pierced through the heart by the gold snake, no, by the gold sewing thread used by the new brutal witch's furniture, and it had only taken an instant, so unfitting for the amount of effort it had taken to revive Shannon. In front of Beato's shocked eyes, the two collapsed onto the floor.
ジョージ、シャノン。
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。わずかの間でも会わせてくれてありがとう。
George spent his last breath thanking Beato and died side by side with the one he loved. The gold snake, which still sewed the two in place, spun like a large cyclone, revolving around the inside of the parlor. It was searching for further kills in that room. Oh. Then the tip of the snake met Beato's gaze. In that instant, Beato prepared herself for death. Just then, Virgilia stood in front of her, the fingers of both her hands drawing a mark. In that instant, gold-colored gold leaf buried the inside of the parlor. It was like a blizzard of gold.
ベアト、今のうちに逃げて。
Ooh, yeah.
シエスタの黄金宮からは誰も逃れられない。
410、標的失端。
But
にひゃ、魔法儀マシ。
if no one can escape, how does running away make sense?
45了解。索敵変更、対人画像追尾方式。標的再補足。410データリンク。410データ受領。すっとろいに先代様。来て来て来て。着弾。
The Chester sisters' golden bow would not let its skill escape. It would not let them block it. No magical barrier could even dream of blocking it without being multi-layered. The weak point during the instant of confusion caused by Virgilia's deception magic was Beato's only chance to escape, and the only opportunity to make the sisters confuse Virgilia for Beato. As Virgilia spread her arms wide, blocking the way to her beloved disciple, the gold snake pierced straight through the location of her heart. The snake, which had snuck in through the keyhole, shot through George and Shannon, and then shot through Virgilia in an instant, completely failed to notice as Beato escaped. As soon as Virgilia saw that Beato had gotten away, she expired. She expired? What word is this? The strength left her body, and like gold dust drifting with the wind, her form was erased. Beato completely erased all traces of her magical power, became gold butterflies, and passed through the wall, escaping to the wind and rain outside. Beato felt sick from the bottom of her heart. Why? Because she had been attacked by the new witch? Probably not. Of course, she also felt sick over the loss of her master. But even more than that, Beato was enraged at the barbarism which had boorishly stolen the union between the two reunited lovers. Beato had poured out almost all of her magical power to reunite them. That miracle had been achieved only as a result of all that, yet it had taken such a short time to steal it away. I mean, yeah, you get it now, right? Beato trembled at the barbarous cruelty which had ended it so fast. And it was also the true form of the acts she herself had committed up until that point. So just as strongly as Beato hated the new witch, she looked at her previous self with disgust. But now she had to escape. If she was targeted next, she would probably lose her life. And it wouldn't even be funny if the chess player, descended like a god, ended up being attacked and killed by the pieces. I mean, interesting.
45、着弾確認。標的資産。間違いなく先代様を撃破しました。また私たちの撃墜気象が増えちまうに。にひ。愛し合う二人。なんだっけ
Yeah, indeed, Rosaline.
引き裂いて一度、合わせて二度、もう一度引き裂いて三度楽しめる。だっけそのついでにあのクソうるさいババアまでさよならできて最高にご機嫌よ。ロノウェイ、文句ないわよね。
ございませんと、ベアトリーチェ様。
あいつは魔女の碑文の儀式を妨害したのよ。第一の番の生贄を勝手に蘇らせて私の儀式を妨害したわ。
文句言われる筋合いなんかなんにもないわよ。しかしずるいな。あいつは死体を残さないのね。あのババアも思いっきり何度も無限にいじめ殺して遊んでやろうと思ったのに。
Ay, ay, ay. Mm.
ジョージが来てないわよ。いつ降りたのよ。
いつって、あれは何時くらいだったっけ？
確か4時か5時くらいだったかな。最低でも1時間以上は前だよ。
俺たち眠くなってその後は多分居眠りしてたし、でも多分ジェシカの言う通りだと思うぜ。1時間か2時間くらい前だった。
私もそのくらいの頃だと記憶しています。コーヒーのおかわりはいるかと聞かれましたからな。
Something hard to believe had happened. Apparently, when Auntie Eva had left for a second to visit the lavatory, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki had disappeared. There's no way they went hiding somewhere. Of course, the doors and windows had all been rigorously checked and all were locked from the inside. Not one of them was broken. And that wasn't just the first floor, the second floor was the same. Also, all of the doors and windows were designed in such a way that they couldn't be locked from the outside. In other words, there was no way that Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki had gone outside, and yet they couldn't be found. Furthermore, they weren't the only ones who had disappeared. Astonishingly, George Aniki had too. George Aniki had left saying that he was going to get more coffee, and had gone downstairs more than an hour earlier. I'd been under the impression that he was having a good conversation with Auntie Eva and the rest, but Auntie Eva, who had been in the lobby the whole time, said that no one had come down. Since all of the doors and windows are locked from the inside, it's hard to imagine that they went outside. Nevertheless, 3 humans had evaporated from this barricaded guest house, which had become a perfect locked room. It's hard to imagine any reason why they'd hide themselves away for a surprise prank in a situation like this. It's probably appropriate to think that they've become caught up in this crime. Finally, some delicious locked rooms. Oh man. This is like a locked house already, not just a room. When Auntie Eva learned that her only son was missing, she went half insane, running from room to room and yelling his name loudly. That's not gonna help. And Jessica, who had suddenly lost both of her parents, followed suit. Cries of George, George and Mom, Dad were even now continuing to echo through the guest house. I think George said something about wanting to see Shannon's face. It would be reasonable to imagine that he had snuck out of the guest house and gone to the mansion. However, I don't know about Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki. Maybe they guessed that's what happened and went to the mansion to search for him? Without even telling Auntie Eva? At this rate, it's only a matter of time before we start talking about leaving the guest house to search for them. At this point, I'd be in favor of that. We said that shutting ourselves up inside the guest house would be safe, and shut ourselves in this morning as a big happy family of 12 people. And yet now there are only 4 people here. In other words, being here does not imply safety. However, there's something even more important that we mustn't forget. That's the fact that all of the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is a locked room. How had they vanished from this place? We'd searched around thoroughly. However, we were unable to find any signs of anyone hiding. The 3 of them had almost certainly been taken outside the guest house.
どうやってでしょう。まさか隠し扉とかがあるとか。
隠し扉？
扉も窓も外から閉めることは構造上不可能です。釣り糸の類を使ってもこの構造では無理でしょうな。となれば 扉や窓以外から出たと考えるのが妥当でしょ
確かに。そういう論法にもなるだろうよ。隠し扉が存在しないなんて断言は。しかし、そういう発想に飛躍する前に、俺はもっとシンプルな可能性も疑って。
と申しますと？
For some time, Butler had been opening windows, opening the shutters, and checking outside, and repeating this for each window.
この窓は静かだな。なるほど。この窓は他と違って、建物の構造上、風が吹き込まないわけか。
そのようですな。こんなにも外は風雨なのに、雨も風も入ってこないとは不思議な気持ちです。
南條先生、今、窓を開けたとき、音を感じたかい？
いえ、気にはなりませんでしたな。よく油が効いていると思います。
つまり、誰も見ていない廊下の窓から、ひょろっと抜け出すことは可能なわけだ。しかもこの窓なら、風も吹き込まないから、風圧でカーテンや扉が音を立てることもない。静かなもんさ。
Alright. Oh, sorry. Butler leaned out and looked at the ground below. He was searching for some sign that George had jumped down. But at a glance, he didn't see any mark like that on the grass in the middle of the pouring rain.
こういう窓が1階にもあるのかもしれない。誰にも気づかれずに表へ出ることは可能だぜ。
しかし扉はおろか、窓は全て施錠されて鎧戸まで閉まっていましたぞ。出ることは可能でも閉めることは不可能だ。
閉められるぜ。こうやって。
Butler closed the window and locked it as though this was perfectly obvious.
まさかバトラさんが？
最後に中の人間が鍵を閉めれば、こんな密室は朝飯前だ。
しかしそれでは、
Nanja turned pale and shook his head several times, because the thing the butler said was presenting a certain truth to him that was frightening even to imagine.
俺の想像したトリックならな。しかし、こんなトリックを使えば、怪しまれる人物は極めて限定される。
He didn't want to say it in front of Nanjo, but after eliminating Jessica, who had been with him the whole time, the only ones who could have done it were Nanjo and Eva.
私はそんなことをしませんぞ。誓ってもいい。
となると、エヴァおばさんと南條先生のアリバイ合戦ってことになる。俺たちは二人とも怪しんで、それぞれを別々に監禁すればいいだけの話。逆に言えば、このトリックはもっと生存者が多ければ有効かもしれないが、これだけ人数が減った状況下では大して有効ではないんだ。
No, in fact, there's a chance they could dig their own grave with it. It should have been more expedient to make it look like the culprit was outside, and to intentionally leave a door unlocked or break a window.
もしこの失踪劇が今日の昼にでも起これば、俺は自信満々にこの説を発表しただろうよ。だが、この段階に至っては全然自信が持てないぜ。何なんだこいつは。一体何を意味してやがるんだ、この密室はよ。
やはりその。
なんだい、南條先生。思いつきでもいいから言ってくれよ。
Because Dr. Nanjo looked like he was trying to swallow his words despite having thought of something, I urged him on. After he refused several times, saying that it was just a foolish idea, he finally said it out loud.
やはりこれは本当に魔女の仕業ではないのかと。
バカバカしい。魔女なんているわけがねえぜ。
魔女は私たちに訴えたいのです。人間にはできないことをやってのけるからこそ、自分を魔女だと認めさせたいに違いないのです。私はこのゲストハウス全体の密室からの失踪は、そういう魔女からのメッセージだと感じています。考えてはならないのです。意味なんてきっとないのです。私は恐ろしい。
As Dr. Nanjo shook with fear, it looked like he was trying to erase the fearsome thoughts that he kept imagining, one after the other. When we went downstairs, Auntie Eva and Jessica were enraged and were each making a lot of noise about leaving this place and searching for their respective families. It was the desire that naturally hits those who can no longer see their family. Auntie Eva told Dr. Nanjo and me to stay here, but I shook my head and started walking. I mean, yeah, also, have you not noticed already that whenever you split up, something bad happens? Like, how much more are you gonna split up?
俺も外の空気を吸いたくなってきた。
ああ、行くならさっさと行こうぜ。もうこんなところに閉じこもってるのは真っ平さ。早く父さんや母さんやジョージ兄さんを探しに行こう。
The blood had all risen to Jessica's head. I hope it doesn't set off her asthma.
残りたい人は勝手に残ってればいいわ。とにかく私たちは表を探してくるわ。
南條先生はどうする？一人で留守番してるかい？
いえ、私もご一緒させてください。
If the alternative was holding up alone in a guest house whose security was by no means guaranteed, it would be better to be in a danger zone as a group of 4 people. Auntie Eva was holding the gun. Moving separately from her was almost like asking to be made into the next victim. Ay. In this way, the 4 of us decided to leave the guest house. We'd barricaded ourselves in, saying we'd be safe if we did. And then lost 8 people. It was almost as though this had been nothing more than a holding cell from which the sacrifices could be killed one after another. We removed the chain, unlocked the front door, and opened it. It was already pitch black out. While there were some lights outside, which dimly lit the pathway, they didn't have enough power to illuminate the darkness that some suspicious person was likely to be hiding in.
行くわよ。遅れても知らないんだからね。
Still holding her gun, Auntie Eva dashed out without an umbrella. Jessica followed after her. After looking at each other, Dr. Nanjo and I chased after them. What in the world is happening in this mansion on this island? Since yesterday, I've just been shut up in the cousin's room in the guest house with the rest of my cousins. So I don't know anything about what's been going on outside. Just what has been happening in those places I don't know about. Outside the room, in the mansion, and on this island. Everything is occurring, everything is proceeding, and everything is ending without my knowing it. Somewhere in my heart I had already begun to give up. Most likely not one of us will see tomorrow morning. When the seagulls cry, none shall be left alive. Oh no. You can't drop that line, Battler, not so soon. I think it's fair game at this point. Okay. Jessica's woeful voice echoes throughout the rose garden. Perhaps it was the intuition of a person who lived on this island. After Jessica had looked in the rose garden where Auntie Rosa and Maria had fallen and seen nothing, she had gone to look in the arbor next. Normally, the arbor was probably a wonderful location to enjoy tea peacefully while appreciating the roses on a good sunny day. Who knows, maybe even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuhi had their days where they relaxed and enjoyed tea together here. In that arbor lay the bodies of Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuhi. At least they weren't drenched in the rain like Auntie Rosa and Maria had been. But there was no way I could say that out loud to Jessica at that moment.
どうなんだ、南條先生。
考察ですな。ほら、ご覧なさい。首にくっきりと何か細いもので締めた跡が残っている。
だな。まさかこっちが主たる死因のわけはねえだろうよ。
What these things? Ah, the stakes, okay. The two stake-like weapons, decorated with an occult design that were lying on the ground, had been found driven into Uncle Krause's thigh area and near Aunt Natsuki's calf. When we had found these sticking out of my parents' forehead and chest, we had decided to leave them exactly as they were for the police and to preserve the crime scene. But Jessica no longer cared about such matters and immediately pulled the stakes out of her parents' forsaken bodies. Strangulation with a golden sewing thread shot by bunny girls, of course. Yeah, when you put it that way. Ah, the way that sounds.
これで頭、胸、腹、膝、足の5つをえぐられた死体が出たわけね。くそ犯人め殺してやる殺してやる第8の番まではこれで終わったわ。続くは第9の番なの。魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残れはしない。上等だぜ。魔女が蘇るってことは犯人が堂々と姿を現してくれるってことなんだろう。何が誰も生き残れないだ。私が殺してやる。父さんと母さんを殺した犯人をこの手で絶対に殺してやる。
She's nothing but determined. Jessica howled furiously, her emotions laid bare. To avoid being crushed by her grief, she could do nothing but resist it with anger.
まだジョージが見つかってないわ。ジェシカちゃんたちはここにいたければいるといい。私は屋敷へ行くわ。
エヴァさん、バラバラに行動してはいけない。みんなで一緒に行動しなくては危険です。
兄さんたちはもうどうしようもないわ。でもジョージはまだどこかで生きているかもしれない。ここで時間を潰してる暇はないのよ。
I mean, it's commendable that at least she still has hope. As Auntie Eva screamed this, Jessica glared at her. Auntie Eva had no more time to bother about the dead. She was more concerned for the safety of her only son, who was yet to be seen.
ジェシカちゃんはここでお父さんとお母さんのそばにいるといい。私はちょっと屋敷に行ってくるわ。バトラ君も南條先生もここにいてくれていい。
After saying this and leaving no time for debate, Auntie Eva rushed out of the arbor. I called out for her to stop, but there was no way she would listen. However, by now, being alone in this situation meant nothing short of death. If we silently watched her leave, it would be the same as letting her die. As long as Auntie Eva was unwilling to stop, we would have no choice but to follow her. And while it may be cruel to say so, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki were already dead, so there was nothing more we could do for them. In the end, we had no choice but to console Jessica and head for the mansion together. Fortunately, Jessica stood up. Perhaps she had been able to draw a line under her grief for the moment, but what had surfaced in its place was an expression like a demon.
私がこの手でぶっ殺して必ず仇を取ってやる。行こうぜバトラー。犯人を見つけたら邪魔をするなよ。私が絶対に殺す。
俺も親父たちの仇があるんだ。悪いが早いもん勝ちだぜ。
Alright.
そうだな。ぶっ殺してやろうぜ。
At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like someone had sympathized with her emotions. She still had that dark expression, but I felt Jessica regaining some of her sanity. We took off, chasing after Auntie Eva. Through the rose garden, up the stone steps, running at full speed towards the mansion, whose large, intimidating shadow flashed in the lightning. With this, the epitaph murders had finished the 8th twilight. And now, on the 9th twilight, the witch will revive. None shall be left alive. I will most likely lose my life, but at the very least I wanted to burn the truth into my eyes. That was the only thing motivating me to move at that moment. We were able to reunite with Auntie Eva, who was having trouble with the lock to the front door. It seemed that all the blood had risen to Auntie Eva's head. That was probably making her fingers clumsy. It seemed she couldn't even handle the simple task of inserting the key into the lock. Then there was a faint sound, the sound of the door unlocking, just as though it had waited for all of the survivors to unite before opening. It seemed to me as though the malicious mansion was trying to swallow all of the remaining humans at once. The stench that erupted outwards at the instant the door opened. Could it really be explained as just the smell? Oh great, oh goody, ugh. It wasn't just the charred smell from grandfather. I think it may also have contained something like regrets held by so many dead, including our parents and all of the servants. What did it mean as it billowed out, overwhelming us? Was it the cry of the dead telling us not to enter? However, Auntie Eva didn't even flinch at something like that, and we who had to chase after her were forced to step into the mansion despite receiving that message.
ジョージジョージ聞こえたら返事をしなさいジョージ
Auntie Eva shouted at the top of her lungs. Yeah, indeed, Bear, indeed. Considering the situation, it's probably far too optimistic to imagine that he's alive. When we also started following Auntie Eva's example in calling George Aniki's name in loud voices, Auntie Eva found something and stopped walking. She was standing in front of the door to the parlor.
これは南條先生ちょっと来てもらえるかしら
何事ですかな
I had heard from the adults about the creepy magic circles that had been drawn on doors such as the one to the parlor. Creepy was the only word to describe that thing, which had been scrawled there with the deep red paint reminiscent of blood that slowly dripped down. However, that had supposedly been there since this morning. Wondering why Auntie Eva, who had seen it already, would think it odd now, Jessica and I stared at the door.
確かにこんな数字が書かれていた記憶はありません。
Ooh, there's an addition.
ええなかったわ不気味な魔法文字みたいなのは書かれていたけど数字は書かれていなかった
From what the two of them said, only a magic circle had been there. Had been there here this morning. Okay. Am I too tired, or is this a weird phrase? Alright. However, right now, there were 8 digits newly written in the upper part of the magic circle. 0715. Are those ones after the 5? Yeah, I think it's 1. Yeah, because the downwards part is straight, not curved. Right, so 07151129. Okay. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't even want to imagine the thought process of whoever wrote this. It was drawn with what was probably the same paint as the magic circle, but it had clearly been written very recently. The way it had dried and the condition of the color was completely different from the magic circle part. I can make a note of that? Okay.
どうせ魔法的な意味があるんだろうぜ深く考えたって意味なんかあるわけもないさ
Jessica intentionally spat those words out in an attempt to wipe out how creepy it was.
魔法陣というものかもしれませんな。ある種の数字遊びに魔除けが宿るという考え方です。どの列を足しても同じ数字になるみたいなものを皆さんも見聞きしたことがおありでしょう。
あれは四角形の中に埋めた数字の話じゃなかったこれは横一列だもの何の意味があるのかさっぱりだわ多分ジェシカちゃんの言うのが正解よ私たちが深く考えたところで意味なんか何もないわ
Even though she said that, she probably suspected that it might actually mean something. Using an old receipt or something from inside her pocket, Auntie Eva deftly wrote that number down with a short ballpoint pen. Because an 80-digit number would probably be a little difficult to memorize unless it had some kind of pattern.
これ日にちとかな。
日にち？何の話？
いや偶然だろうけどな。俺の誕生日7月15日なんだ。0715が7月15日を示すのかなって思ったら1129もほらその11月29日って読んだらちょうど語呂がいいかなって思ってよ。
Alright, and what would those two dates together mean?
なんでバトラーの誕生日がこんなとこに書いてあるんだよ。そして11月29日ってなんだよ。
俺が知りてえぜ。まあそのたまたまの偶然だろうけどな。そう考えたらなんだか不気味になっちまったぜ。11月29日が誰かの誕生日だったりとかするのか。うちの家族は違うぜ。親父もキリエさんもエンジェも違う。もちろん俺のお袋もだ。
心当たりがありませんな。金蔵さんの誕生日でもゲイジさんの誕生日でもないはず。
うちの家族も違うわよ。ローザやマリアちゃんでもないわ。
うちの家族だって違うぜ。カノン君も違うし、シャノンも違う。私、使用人の人の誕生日にはちゃんとプレゼント渡してるからみんな知ってるけど、11月29日に誕生日の人間なんて知らないぜ。
Once we started imagining that the 8 digits which we had thought were meaningless were actually 2 dates written together, it really started to look that way. However, its true meaning may be something completely different, or there may be no meaning at all. Anyway, since we don't have any real clue, it's probably pointless to stand around here analyzing it. More important was the inside of the parlor. This morning, behind each of the doors with a magic circle drawn on them, there had been the body of a victim. And now that a number had been newly added to the door, what new thing had been added inside the parlor? Is it really that tough to guess? When Auntie Eva tried to open it, she felt the resistance of the lock. She immediately took out a master key and put it in the keyhole. As soon as she opened the door, Auntie Eva let out a high-pitched scream and ran inside. That alone was enough to tell us what had happened inside the room. Dr. Nanjo and I looked at each other and I shook my head slightly as we entered the parlor.
Georgie! Georgie! しっかりして! Georgie! Nanjo sensei! 早く!
George Aniki had fallen alongside Shannon-chan's body. His chest was stained bright red. And from his still opened eyes, all my condolences to Auntie Eva, but I couldn't pick up any signs of life. After moving to take his pulse, Dr. Nanjo shook his head, wordlessly reporting that George Aniki was dead. Brushing him aside, Auntie Eva once again crouched beside George Aniki and started crying at the top of her lungs. With this, Aniki's death, one thing had become certain. The murders would not be ending at the 8th twilight. The epitaph was going to be carried out in its complete form, including the 9th twilight, and none will be left alive. I'm really starting to lose the plot. For some reason, Auntie Eva's half-insane cries and appearance actually made me cool down. Crestfallen and exhausted, I flopped onto the sofa and plunked my feet on top of the table. Maybe all of these murders have paralyzed my heart. Instead of fright, the stronger emotion I'm feeling is one of complete confusion. Yes, you and I both, Battler. The profiles of Kraus, Natsuki, and George have been updated. Okay, let's double check. Let's see. Kraus. Corpse discovered in the Rose Garden Arbor. The cause of death is assumed to be strangulation by a cord-shaped object. A stake-shaped weapon was sticking out of his thigh. Why does he, have no head? Is that a mistake? Is that a... No, it's on purpose because Natsuki is the same. That's so creepy. Out of all things, I don't know why I find this so creepy. Right. Sorry, I didn't read the last sentence here. If not for the epitaph, stakes wouldn't even be needed. What a pain. Okay, I see. Right, so for Natsuhi, corpse discovered in the Rose Garden Arbor. The cause of death is assumed to be strangulation by a cord-shaped object. A stake-shaped weapon was sticking out of her calf. Why does the epitaph even need to be followed in the first place? A game? Yeah. Both of their heads are covered with some texture things, so make of that what you will. And George is here. Corpse discovered in the mansion's parlor. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or spear-shaped object. Ah, there it is. In exchange for his soul, the witch granted an 8-digit number. 0715-1129. When spoken, a small golden land will be opened. A small golden land. Interesting. What even is that? Right. Dad and Kiryu-san have died, and starting with the servants, people have been killed off one by one. And at one hell of a pace, too. I don't know what time the first murders started, but I'd say we're probably being killed at a rate of about 1 person an hour. Oh, that's quite fast. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until then. How many more sacrifices to the witch would there have to be for us to survive? With the 4 of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. It's not clear anymore if we'll even last until midnight tonight. Yesterday after lunch, we came into this parlor. At about the time that the discussion had turned to the black tea that Auntie Rosa said she bought, we kids had started talking about going to take a walk. Maria was fooling around. Didn't Shannon-chan bring us some cookies? She said that Kumasao-san had baked them or something. I'd probably have laughed my ass off if there had actually been a cooked mackerel one mixed in with them. Aye. These jokes will never get old, I guess. That's right, I'll never hear Kumasawa-bachan's mackerel jokes again, will I? Oh yeah, if I only remember stuff about Kumasawa-bachan, that wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Why did Dad and Kiryu-san even go outside? It's not like we'd die from being without food for a day. So why did Gluttony get a hold of them and make them go get food? I'll bet it was my fearless dad who started complaining about being hungry. Kiryu-san, you're supposed to be the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop him? And what about your daughter, Ange? Ange? Is that the... I'm not sure if that's how you say it. She's only 6 years old. You weren't thinking of entrusting her to me, were you? Ange, okay. Most people pronounce it like the word angel without the L though. Ange. Okay. Thank you. That was, like, instant. Did you have that prepared? Wow. You weren't thinking of entrusting her to me, were you? There we go. Oh wow, okay. I appreciate that, that's amazing. You're awesome, Bea. At this point, it's doubtful that even I will be able to leave this island alive.
やめなさい。こんな時に争ってどうするんですか。ジェシカさん、やめなさい。
What's happening? Catfight between Jessica and Eva? Some kind of commotion was interrupting my thoughts. I looked up to see what it was and saw that Jessica and Auntie Eva had started fighting each other at some point. No, maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Auntie Eva.
エヴァおばさんが父さんたちを殺したんだ。他に説明がつかない。 何をバカなことを。あんたのお父さんたちなんか知るわけないでしょ。ゲストハウスの1階にいたのは誰だよ。エヴァおばさんだ。
Same naming pattern as the rest of the family. Very weird Western sounding names. Yeah, yeah.
1階のロビーには父さんと母さんと、そしてエヴァおばさんがいた。生き残ったのは誰だ。エヴァおばさんだけだ。どうして。あんたが犯人だからに決まってるじゃないか。父さんと母さんを殺して外へ運び出して白々しく鍵を閉めて魔女の仕業なんかを装いやがったんだ。じゃあジョージはどうしていなくなったのよ。1階には降りてきてないのよ。じゃあ2階でいなくなったっていうの。2階には誰がいたのよ。あなたたちがいたんじゃない。あなたは知ってたんでしょ。ジョージがこっそりゲストハウスを抜け出すのを。それを自分は何も知らないような顔を抜けとあんたがジョージを止めててくれれば、ジョージは
やめなさいというのに、ジェシカさんはずっといとこ部屋にいました。そしてエヴァさんもずっと1階のロビーにいました。そして2人とも何も悪くない。ただ家族を失って悲しいだけなんです。犯人なんか誰もいない。どこにもいない。ただただ魔女のせいなだけなんです。
I love it. Those two are like blaming each other, and then Nanjo's like, it's nobody, it's the witch. And then Battler's like over there, you know, like that meme, crunching all the numbers and the mathematical equations, trying to figure it out.
だからお二人で憎み合うのはやめなさい。
The witch's fault, is it? Nanjo, yeah. I wonder if that's a good way to meditate. Not meditate. Although we could use some of that. I wonder if that's a good way to mediate things for now. Yes, I finally understand the meaning of all the doors and windows having been locked from the inside when 3 whole people evaporated from the guest house. This is what they were after, making us think the culprit was inside and causing this ugly mutual hatred. Had to be the culprit's, the witch's goal. But in that case, how had the culprit locked it from the outside? It's certainly true that the master key had been stolen when Dad's group was attacked, but the doors and windows to the guest house had been constructed so that you couldn't lock them from the outside no matter how hard you tried. So that master key shouldn't mean anything for the guest house locked room. Jessica and Auntie Eva were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanjo was trying to step between them. And I sat haphazardly in the sofa, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore with a worn-out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday, for just a short time before the typhoon hit. Okay. The sudden sound of a gunshot shook me out of my half-asleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Auntie Eva held. Jessica was rolling around on the floor, covering both her eyes. Her eyes? What? Auntie Eva and Dr. Nanjo were looking down at her, shocked.
大丈夫ですか？ジェシカさん、ジェシカさん。
私のせいじゃないわよ。
This is episode 3, yes.
あんたがよせっていうのに突っかかってくるから。
おいおい、どうしたってんだ。何事なんだ。
Ay, ay, ay. Jessica had grabbed at Auntie Eva, and it had turned into a scuffle. They had then started fighting over the gun Auntie Eva had been holding, and some movement or other caused the trigger to be pulled. I didn't know the details about whether the bullet had grazed her or whether she had been burned by the discharge. But whatever the case, Jessica was covering both of her eyes, screaming in pain and rolling around on the floor.
大丈夫。落ち着いて。大した怪我ではありませんぞ。気をしっかり。
目が痛い。痛い。見えない。見えない。
Dr. Nanjo lent Jessica his shoulder, saying that he would tend to her in the servant room. Yes, split up even more! Why? The servant room in this mansion apparently had a bed and a first aid kit, and was able to function as an infirmary.
父さんと母さんの仇殺してやる。殺してやる。
Ay.
私じゃないわよ。私じゃない。
ジェシカさん、傷に触りますから、それ以上騒がないで。さあ、使用人室に行きましょう。
Jessica still continued to curse Auntie Eva as her parents' murderer. It seemed that Auntie Eva couldn't conceal her shock at the fact that she had pulled the trigger, even if it had been an accident.
私のせいじゃないわよ。あの子が掴みかかってきたからこんなことに。私は殺してなんかないわよ。それより、
Oh my
ジョー
god.
ジは誰が殺したの？そうよ。ジョージは誰が殺したのよ。ジョージ。ジョージ。私は悪くない。私は悪くない。
待てよエヴァおばさん、一人になるな。
I didn't know whether it was because Auntie Eva couldn't stand her mistake, or whether it was because she had lost herself to anger at the person who had killed her only son, or whatever it was. Both of those all mixed together. Or whether it was, there it is. I'm tired. Or whether it was both of those all mixed together. In any case, she ran out into the corridor, yelling, fearful and shouting. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but anyway, right then, I couldn't leave Auntie Eva alone. Why would she go off on her own in this mansion of all places? Is she suicidal? Dr. Nanjo took Jessica towards the servant room. I chased after Auntie Eva, dashing into the depths of the mansion. After sitting Jessica on the servant room bed, Nanjo told her several times not to rub her eyes and examined the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had damaged her corneas. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to have a suitable doctor look at her as soon as humanly possible. Nanjo applied emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gaze and wrapping it with the bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision.
いいですかな。傷が痛んだりうずいたりするでしょうが、絶対にかいたり揉んだりしてはなりませんぞ。明日になったらすぐに眼科の先生のところへ行きましょう。
あいつめ、本当は私を殺すつもりだったんだ。ほんのちょっと角度が悪かったら今頃殺されてた。絶対にあいつを警察へ突き出してやる。
エヴァさんはそんなことはしませんぞ。あれは事故です。
事故なもんか。あいつが父さんと母さんを殺したんだ。この島には19人目も魔女もいるわけがない。あいつが全ての犯人なんだ。ゲストハウスの1階にはあいつだけがいた。父さんと母さんを殺し、それを見てしまったジョージ兄さんも口封じに殺したに違いない。じいさまや使用人の人たちだってそうさ。きっとあいつは夕べの親族会議の途中でこっそり抜け出し。
もしそうならば、警察が調べればすぐにわかることです。警察はすごいですぞ。鑑識の手にかかればわからぬことなどありません。私たちは誰かを疑ったり恨んだりする必要などないのです。すべて警察が解決してくれます。だからジェシカさんは今は体を休め、目を楽にすることに専念するのです。あまり眉間にシワを寄せては、目にはもちろん 美容にもよくありませんぞ。
Indeed, when Jessica had grown agitated in her verbal abuse of Eva, she had naturally started glaring, and the pressure on her eyes hurt her. Jessica herself soon realized that the more she talked, the more the wound would hurt. And regardless of whether she had overcome her suspicions of Eva, she regained her composure for the time being.
あいつが殺したんだ。父さんや母さんを。
Embrace your inner geek.
Hey, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome.
シャノンやカノン君を。カノン君。
She had heard that Canon had been killed in the chapel. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he had died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she might go blind, and more frightened that the police would carry Canon's corpse away while she still couldn't see, and that she would have to say her final farewell without being able to see his face. Oh, my heart! I love Jessica and Canon so much. They're so cute together. My heart is breaking. Oh. Her anger at the culprit and her sadness at the death of the person she had liked. Those mixed emotions provoked her tear ducts. But right now, tears were actually painful for her, so she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember the late Canon's face. Jessica could do nothing but sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain.
さて、今度はエヴァさんの方が心配です。気に病まれていなければいいのですが。
Letting out a small sigh of relief that Jessica had calmed down for the time being, he stuck his head out into the hallway to look for any sign of the others coming back. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. They met eyes. Nanjo, unable to understand who this person was bewildered for an instant.
視力を失った人間って反魔法力も対魔法抵抗力もゼロになるんですって。つまり今のあんたはアイソレーテッドポーン。意味がわかるかしら。
なんですと？
There was no possible way that Nanjo could have understood who the person in front of him was. And there was certainly no possible way that he could ever have understood what she had just said.
南條先生、どうしたんです？
Unable to see, Jessica couldn't tell what was going on except by whatever voice she heard. But since she had heard Nanjo say something with an uneasy tone, she tightened up, thinking that something bad might have happened.
やめてくれ！殺さないでくれ！わしには病弱の孫がおる！ここでは死ねんのだ！頼む！見逃してくれ！
南條先生！南條先生！
Jessica couldn't do anything except call out from the bed. Judging by the tone of his voice, Nanjo was in the corridor being confronted by someone. And he was scared. There was no doubt that at this very moment his life was being threatened.
よせ！やめろ！
第9の晩に魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残れはしない。
The witch pointed the end of her gold staff at Nanjo. Even though he didn't know what she was planning to do, Nanjo imagined that she must be trying to take his life.
南條先生！南條先生！そこに誰がいるんだよ！返事をしろよ！
やめてくれ！
Oi. A sharp sound echoed, and tapered to a point just as sharp, the elongated tip of the golden staff was stuck straight into Nanjo's forehead. Jessica, who only had her ears to help her try to grasp what was happening, had no clue what was going on. But even so, she was able to realize that with that sound, Nanjo had died. And the person who had killed him, was now in the corridors right in front of the servant room. Furthermore, since she couldn't see, she wouldn't even be able to run away, much less resist. Upon discovering that she was in a life or death situation, caught like a rat in a trap, Jessica felt her blood run cold.
Ah, Jessica.
Sorry.
かわいそうにね。目を怪我しちゃったのね。なら、あなたは逃げることもできないわね。今から南條の死体でたっぷり遊ぶわ。それに飽きたら、次はあなたを殺してたっぷり遊んであげる。いいえ、せっかく目が見えないんだもの。殺してからだけじゃない。殺す前にもたっぷり遊んであげるわね。そこでしばらく震えながら待ってなさいね。南條の死体で私がどんな風に遊ぶのかをたっぷり想像しながら。
Struck with fear, Jessica let out a frail scream. She really wanted to scream in a much louder voice, trying to get someone to help her, but she couldn't. When a person is faced with true fear, it clogs up their throat. Right now, Jessica could barely even breathe. She searched around with her hands, trying to find some way to escape, but even though she knew this room well, just being unable to see made it like a locked room of darkness. She bumped into some shelves or something, and some tins of sweets in bottles and things fell down from them, hitting her on the head. As she was now, even protecting her head to block them wasn't working out. She was becoming painfully aware of how very powerless humans become just by losing their sense of sight. That is very true. Of course, she had no time to appreciate that. She crawled around as best as she could, trying to escape that place. But she kept bumping into objects that she didn't understand, getting hit by various falling objects, and it felt to her like the entire room was alive, bullying her and refusing to let her escape. Then she heard footsteps from the presence in the hallway, and then a voice. The person had probably peered into the room since Jessica was making so much noise.
にぎやかね。レディーならおとなしくベッドに座って待っていなさい。令状にふさわしい素敵な真っ赤な死に装束を与えてやるんだから。あなたを見つけた人が失神してしまいそうになるくらいのね。
Just a short while ago, she had sworn that she would kill the culprit if she found them. However, she was now all too powerless. She couldn't do anything except let out feeble screams and crawl around on the floor, bumping her head into the bed and the legs of the desks.
助けて！助けて！誰か助けて！父さん、母さん、パトラー、誰か助けてよ！
In the corridor, as the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjo's life, a single gold butterfly secretly watched that scene from the corner of the hallway. It was Beato, who had barely escaped with her life once before. The gold butterfly softly returned to human form. Its form was faint and transparent like a lace curtain. Even just the power to hold a human form had become scarce for her. Right next to her, Runaway also appeared.
ジェシカも生き残れはしないでしょう。もとより誰も生き残れはしませんが。
あやつはカノンに恋心を寄せておった。 わらわはそれをもてあそんだこともある。しかしそれは魔女として恥ずべきことであった。
愛とは異なる元素。恋心はそれ以上に純粋で尊いものでございます。なぜかお嬢様はとてもそれを嫌われますが。
お師匠様は言った。魔法とは人を幸せにするためにあると。わらわもかつてはそれを知っていたはずだった。そしてそれを忘れた時からわらわは魔女ではなくなっていたのだ。だからわらわはバトラの対戦相手の資格を失っていたのだ。
まさかお嬢様、ジェシカを助けるおつもりですか？危険です。
分かっておる。どうせ助けても黄金鏡の扉が開けば魔女の宴の慰み者よ。しかしそれでもあやつの殺し方に比べれば数段慈悲深い。魔女の宴は恐るべき方法にて命を奪う。生死をもてあそばぬ。
I guess that's one way to look at it from a positive perspective.
しかしあやつは違う。何度でも殺す。
I mean, as did you.
面白半分で殺す。そこにはわずかほどの慈悲もない。わらわはせめてジェシカをそのような残酷な運命から。
確かにそれを行うことは良き魔女として称えられることでしょう。しかし新しきベアトリーチェ様はすでにお嬢様のことを敵視なされています。もう一度姿を見られることがあったなら今度は逃れる術はありませんよ。
ジョージをシャノンに合わせた時、わらわはようやく、そして魔法とはどういうものなのかを、わらわは魔女だ。魔女であらねばならぬ。そしてバトラに対戦相手だと認められ、今度こそバトラ、そのための道は長く険しいかもしれない。しかし今ここでその一歩を踏み出さねば、わらわは魔女を名乗れぬのだ。
お気持ちはわかりますが、どうやってお救いになるつもりです？今のお嬢様の身に使える魔法は多くありません。シャノンを蘇らせる時ですらジョージの力を借りたではありませんか。
だからこそジェシカだけは救えるかもしれぬのだ。今あやつはカノンに助けを求めている。その思いの力を借りれば、わらわの魔力にてもう一度冥府の扉を叩けるかもしれない。
Okay.
叩けはするでしょう。しかし魔力を使い切ります。新しきベアトリーチェ様にもし見つかったら本当に逃れる術はありませんよ。私はすでにお嬢様の執事ではありません。いざという時お助けすることはできませんのでご了承を。
承知しておるわ。わらわはこれまで数えることもできぬほどの命をもてあそび、ならばその罪は同じ数だけの命を救うことでしか。もとよりわらわに失うものなどないわ。名も魔力も引き継ぎ、今や魔女とも認められぬただの黄金の蝶よ。
バトラ様はどうなさるのですか？ゲームの途中です。彼はお嬢様がお戻りになるまで待つとおっしゃいました。ここで果てるようなことがあっても良いのですか？お嬢様にはバトラ様の向かいの席に戻る義務があるのですよ。
だからこそだ。わらわにしか救えぬ命があるならば、わらわはそれを救う。そして魔女と認められるぞ。わらわは魔女にならねばならぬのだ。 これが試練であるならば、これまでの悪行に見合わぬ幼稚なものよ。さあ、姿を消せ、ロノ。かつて黄金の魔女と呼ばれた一匹の蝶の最後となるかもしれぬ魔法を見るがいい。
かしこまりました。黄金の魔女の名に恥じぬ魔法、拝見させてもらいます。願わくばそれが最後の魔法とならぬこと。
行け、我が友よ。
friend. Okay.
もしインクが足りるなら、我が愚かなる生涯を記して同じ道を歩もうとする愚か者に手渡せ。さらばだ、ロノ。
魔法少女ベアトリーチェ go! Alright.
.お嬢様、僕はいつだってお嬢様のすぐそばに控えております。カノン君、
Jessica thought that she had just heard Kanon's voice. She looked around with unseeing eyes, but of course there was no way for her to see anything. On the contrary, that action caused her head to hit the desk again. Oh no.
カノン君、助けて、助けて。はい、お嬢様、僕がお助けします。カノン君、生きてたの。
This time she thought that she had heard his voice clearly. Jessica jumped up in surprise, banging her head against the desk once again.
お嬢様、どうか心を落ち着けてお聞きください。残念ながら僕は生きてはいません。僕はすでに死んでしまっています。ですが、あの魔女がお嬢様の危機を僕に知らせに来ました。そしてわずかの間だけお嬢様に手助けできる時間をくれました。どうか心をもっと落ち着けて、そうすればお嬢様にも僕の姿が見えるようになります。
Jessica obeyed those words. She chased all idle thoughts from her head and relaxed her breathing. Her heart actually felt like it was going to explode after hearing the voice of the loved one she thought was dead. She resisted that with all of her strength. When she did, she could feel that Kanon-kun really was right in front of her. Even though she was unable to see, somehow she was still able to sense him clearly.
僕が見えますか、お嬢様。ああ、見えるぜ。確かにカノン君が見えるよ。僕は魂だけの存在です。だからお嬢様に触れることはできません。こうして言葉をかけることしかできない。それだけしかできないか弱い存在ですが、それでもお嬢様の力になれるはずです。言葉だけなの？カノン君に触ることはできないの？僕は今ろうそくの煙よりも儚い存在です。聖者であるお嬢様に触れられれば たちまち書き消えてしまうほどに。だからどうか触れようとしないでください。僕もお嬢様に触れたい気持ちを抑えているのですから。それよりお嬢様、よく聞いてください。新しい黄金の魔女は残酷な心の持ち主です。必ずやお嬢様をひどい目に遭わせようとするでしょう。この部屋から逃げ出し隠れなければなりません。
どうやって私は目が見えない。
静かに。僕がお嬢様の目になります。僕がかける言葉に従って動いてください。まずそのまま3歩這い出て、それから立ち上がってください。今お嬢様がいるのは机の下です。そのまま立てば頭をぶつけます。
As she has done multiple times already.
机の下だったのか。わかったよ。1、2、3、立つぜ。
お上手です。次は時計で言う9時の方向を向いてください。はい、お上手です。
なんだか恥ずかしいぜ。
大丈夫ですか？傷が痛みますか？
いや、平気だぜ。次は。
Jessica thought that if this was a dream, she didn't want to wake up. And if she were allowed to, she would have wanted to take off the bandage covering her eyes and see him. However, if she did that, surely Kanon would vanish like frail candle smoke, just like he himself had said. She was afraid of that, so she satisfied herself with just being able to hear his words once more, repressing her desire to see him, to hold him. So what hurt her eyes now were tears of gratitude. Tears of gratitude for the god, or else witch, who had given her this miraculous moment.
大丈夫なの？こんなに喋って。あいつに気づかれない？声を聞かれない？
隠密の結界を張っています。大きな音や声を出さなければ誰も気づきません。だから誰も僕の気配には気づけない。
なんだかわからないけど、とにかく静かにしてれば大丈夫ってことなんだな。次はどうするんだ？
そのままゆっくり10歩ほどを歩いてください。ソファーに触ります。それに沿って進んでください。ゆっくりと落ち着いて、僕の言葉を信じて。
不思議だぜ。
This whole blind Jessica scene always makes me sad. It's so bittersweet. Oh my
目が
god.
見えないってのはあんなにも怖いものだったのに。カノン君と一緒だと全然怖くないよ。
そう、それがソファーです。左になぞりながらゆっくり進んで、すぐ左にテーブルがあります。すねをぶつけないように気をつけて。
It was a very, very peculiar and magical team effort. Even though she would be killed in an instant if she was noticed by the terrible witch, there was no fear in Jessica's heart right then. I guess she's busy with Nandra, right? Oh no. This whole thing with Jessica and Kanon is incredibly sweet and cute, and my heart is like melting. But just thinking of poor Nandra, no. She was being protected and guided by Kanon, who she had thought she would never be able to meet with again. It was probably only a momentary miracle, but even so, Jessica was deeply grateful for it. If she hoped for too much, she was sure that he would disappear. So in order not to break this transient miracle, and in order to engrave this moment into her heart for all eternity, she slowly continued to walk, obeying Kanon's voice.
さあ、さらに10歩を歩けば使用人室から出ます。そしたら9時の方向を向いて、ゆっくりとずっと歩いてください。右の壁に手を置き、それに沿ってずっと 僕が安全な部屋までお連れします。
そこに行ったらカノン君は帰っちゃうの？
We see some very cruel magic in this episode, but also some very beautiful magic too. That is true. And I very, very much like how the beautiful magic part is somehow intrinsically linked to the humanity of the characters and the strength that kind of is born from them being flawed, limited, finite, and all of these things that Beatrice was looking down upon before. Things that she felt superior for not having, and so on. And that this is the source for magic. It's truly a really beautiful metaphor. I like that. Even though I still do not believe that the things that are happening are caused by magic. If you see it in this perspective of it being a metaphor, and in highlighting the beauty and strength in all of these things, that technically there's supposed to be flaws. Yeah, I like it. The more fragile the vase is, the more beautiful it becomes. Yes, that's exactly it. Kanon didn't answer, but even his lack of an answer was enough to let her know that was the truth.
なら、やだ。行きたくないよ。
ここにいれば魔女に殺されます。
いいよ。殺されればカノン君のいる世界へ行けるもん。
お嬢様、どうか聞き分けてください。死者である僕には人の世は眩しくて辛すぎる。だから長くはとどまれません。だからお嬢様、僕に許された時間でお嬢様を安全な場所まで導くことを。そしたら時間が尽きるまでずっとお嬢様と一緒にいますから。
それがカノン君にできる精一杯なの？
はい、その代わり1秒でも長くお嬢様のそばにいるようにします。ずっとお嬢様といてお話をします。
どんなお話？
どんなお話がいいですか？
カノン君が聞かせてくれるなら。
では、勇気のない臆病な使用人の少年の話を。太陽のように眩しいお嬢様に恋心を抱き、同じ気持ちを打ち明けられながらも臆病さに負け、ついに生あるうちに自分に素直になれなかった。
なら私もしたいよ。大好きな男の子にね。もっともっと大好きだよって勇気を振り絞れなかった臆病な女の子の話を。そしてその男の子に再会できる奇跡を神様がくださって、その勇気を振り絞る機会をもう一度与えてもらった女の子が。
僕もその話を聞きたいです。だからそのためにも行きましょう。
Oh, my heart is so full right now.
安全な場所まで。
カノン君と一緒ならいつまでだってどこまでだって歩くよ。もう目なんていらない。カノン君が踏み出せと言うなら崖の先へだって一歩を踏み出すよ。
ありがとう。さあ、お嬢様、参りますよ。最初の10歩。
嫌だ。ジェシカって呼んでくれなきゃ。
わかりました。では、 ジェシカ、最初の10歩を踏み出して。
カノン君。
Quietly, Jessica and Canon snuck slowly out of the servant room. Directly around the corner, the witch could be seen cruelly looking down upon Nanjo's corpse, but the witch did not even notice their presence. Yeah, she's too busy being completely mental. However, Ronoe, who was waiting at her side, met Canon's eyes. Canon thought, oh no, grimacing and blocking Jessica with his back. However, Ronoe did not inform his master. As though it had been his imagination that he ever spotted him in the first place, he pretended to know nothing. Bronoe, yes. He has his moments. No, maybe he did appear to chuckle. From a finger on one of Ronoe's hands, which were joined behind his back, a single small gold butterfly appeared, flying in front of Canon as though guiding him. It was undetectable by the master he served. Canon was surprised at the magic the butterfly held, because it was far more powerful than the stealth barrier Canon had. He may not have known, but that power had originally been Ronoe's. An imitation of that had been given to Canon by Kinzo, and that was what Canon was using now. As that butterfly of stealth and magic scattered gold scales, it grew smaller bit by bit. It probably wouldn't last long, but without a doubt, even that would buy them enough time to get far away from the cruel witch.
さあ、お嬢様、その壁に沿い、ずっと歩いていきましょう。ずっと。
カノン君と一緒ならどこまでもずっと。
Led and protected by the small gold butterfly, the two who were separated by the wall between life and death slowly walked away towards the end of the corridor. There was no way that the evil witch would have any magic to notice their flight. Until they had already disappeared down the other end of the corridor, the witch never noticed that Jessica had vanished. By the time the gold butterfly that Ronoe had cast out evaporated completely, Jessica had reached the parlor. Even though she would have been able to make it this far in no time if she had been able to see, as she was now, it had been a long, long adventure.
さあ、お嬢様。客間にたどり着きました。これからお嬢様を窓際のカーテンの束のところまでお連れします。その中に隠れればきっと安全です。
カーテンの中か。うまいな。
Sorry, I did not mean to do that.
私も昔よくそこに隠れたもんだぜ。
Oh, that's so cute.
ベアトリーチェ様。
Canon called the witch's name. Jessica looked around in surprise, but being unable to see, she obviously couldn't find the witch. Beto had appeared once again, with a faint form. Canon squared off against the evil witch, but Beto's expression was soft and actually pitying.
どういう気まぐれで僕を蘇らせてくれたのか。僕にはあなたの気持ちはわからない。
気まぐれに過ぎぬ。いや、魔女とはこうあるべきなのだ。
Oh man, okay.
わらわがそれを気づくのに1000年をかけた。それだけ。愚かしい話だ。
誰がいるの？お嬢様、お静かに。彼女は魔女。ベアトリーチェ。僕をお嬢様にもう一度会わせてくれた恩人です。
魔女ベアトリーチ
ェ。わらわのことなどどうでもよい。それより早くその女をカーテンの陰に隠すがよい。そなたに残された時間も長くないであろう。ジェシカと最後の語らいに費やすがいい。 カーテンの束の中で密会とは。そなたらもなかなか味な真似をする。
Oh, that's so cute.
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。カノン君に会わせてくれて、ありがとう。
Jessica didn't know where Beato was, so she said that while facing in the wrong direction. Perhaps because she found that funny Beato snickered.
あとは愛し合う二人にこの部屋を譲る。邪悪なる魔女に恋話は不要でな。退出させてもらおう。
ベアトリーチェ様、ありがとうございます。
礼などいらぬ。こんなのでは償いきれぬほど悪行を重ねておることは。
良き魔女には感謝を選別とします。今までがどうであったか、そしてこれからがどうであるかは知らない。しかし今この瞬間、あなたは間違いなく良き魔女だ。
おべっかが過ぎるぞ、カグメが。次に会う時は期待を裏切らぬ悪しき魔女であるかもしれぬぞ。それではさらばだ。
Beato left the parlor and closed the door. And mustering the last of her remaining magical power, she sealed the door. The fact that those two had escaped into here would eventually be noticed. And now that the ninth twilight had been reached, no matter how much they struggled, their inescapable fate had already been decided. However, until that final moment, they should be permitted the time to speak with each other of their love. The witch poured out all of her magical power to protect their time together, so that no one would be able to defile their time alone together until the final moment. Just then, Beato perceived something. Her body had been detected by a magical searching technique. The cruel-hearted witch's furniture had sniffed this place out.
無粋なるは魔女のゆえんか。若き二人に恋を語らせる気もなしとは。
45データ受領。標的照合。仙台ベアトリーチェ教と確認。百魔防御壁を解析。多層防御壁72層。構成防壁および魔法反応走行。100万への狙撃は不可能。410へデータリンク。410データ受領。にひ。じゃあ仙台様を先にしちゃえばいいだけの話だに。大ベアトリーチェ教攻撃許可を。撃ってちょうだい。ああ、急所は外してね。バーバーに聞きたいことがあるの。
I'm not
410射撃。
a big fan of predecessor Beatrice does much so far, but Baba doesn't really fit her. That's so mean. Intentionally. The Chester sisters' gold bow released a golden snake. It crawled down the corridor starting from the front of the servant room, drawing a soft serpentine curved trajectory as it made for the parlor. And struck through Beato's chest. Oof. Gold butterflies gathered and the cruel witch showed herself there, along with her furniture.
仙台様、二度もの妨害、もはや許されませんぞ。
許されようとも思わぬわ。しかしシエスタ姉妹も腕が落ちたものよ。わらわを仕留め損なうとはな。それも二度も。
Renome spoke in a manner fitting for the witch's butler. As she pushed her pain aside, Beto grinned and spoke back.
申し訳ありません。仙台様、急所を外せとのご命令です。 ご指示があればすぐにでも貫きますとも。ピアスの穴でもおへその穴でもお好きな穴を。にひ。
Aye. The gold snake that had shot through Beato grew even longer, drawing a helix like a morning glory vine, and awaited its next order. It was ready to pierce a vital spot as soon as the merciless witch told it to.
残忍にかけてはわらわも一歩を取るそなたが急所を外させるとはどういう風の吹き回しか。新しきベアトリーチェ。
聞きたかったのよ。どういう術で逃れたのか知らないけど、私たちはあんたを仕留めたつもりでいたのよ。そのまま隠れていれば逃れられたもの。どうして危険を冒してまた現れたの？まさか若い二人をかばうためだけに戻ってきたわけ？
さーてな
さっきだってそうよ。どうして恋人たちを蘇らせて再会なんて。聞けば聞くほどにあなたは私なんて足元にも及ばない邪悪の権化。
Oh, excuse me.
そのあなたがどうして急にそんな生ぬるいことを始めたのかって、それを聞きたかったのよ。
残忍ゆえにわらわは気まぐれなのよ。それを問うことに意味などあろうか。
シエスタ姉妹？ヌエ。
Ay. When she ordered that, the gold snake that was curled in a helix and suspended in space moved as fast as a real snake going after its prey, and pierced Beato's body multiple times from the front and the back, its golden tail drawing an X shape. As the ruthless witch had ordered, it drew a cross-stitch through Beato's chest. The gold thread made a squeaking sound and tormented Beato. Rather than a gold snake aiming for its prey, it waited for orders in midair as if it was a sewing needle ready to sew Beato.
あんたに限って気まぐれなんてあるわけがない。あんたのことを聞いたわ。そして知ったわ。あんたは私ですら足元にも及ばない邪悪の権化よ。私はそんなあなたに実にふさわしい後継者だと思ったの。
It seems you thought wrong.
なのにあなたは邪魔ばかり。ぬるいことばかり言って私を呆れさせる。
何があなたを変えたの？1000年間邪悪の限りを尽くしたあなたに、その1000年を翻すような何が起こったのか、それだけを知りたくて生かしたのよ。
知りたく
おい。
そなたも1000年を費やすがよいぞ。
ヌエ。
Beato's chest was once again sewn with the golden cross-stitch. It tightened once again, squeezing fresh blood from Beato's chest. The intense pain it caused ran in conflict with its beauty to the eye.
あんたもひょっとすると死ぬと消えちゃって死体が残らないタイプかもしれないわね。だからあなたをゆっくりと殺すわ。でも私の質問に正直に答えられたら楽に殺してあげる。先代様にぴったりの華麗で豪華で優しい死を与えてあげる。水を張りバラで埋めた棺桶に沈めてあげるわ。素敵でしょ。それでも話せないの？あなたの心変わりの理由。
聞かれたことを答えぬもまた邪悪なる魔女の優越よ。
ヌエ2つ。
もちろん答えてくれなくていいの。だってそうやっていじめてるんだもの。無限の魔法は本当に素晴らしいわ。思えばこの世はすべからく有限。一 人の世に無限などありはしない。それは神が無限であるがゆえに人の世を見下すため全ての無限を取り上げたからよ。なればつまり無限の力とは神の力。遊べば遊ぶほどにさらに楽しい遊び方を見つけられる素敵な力。その力を1000年も思うがままに使い暴れ回ったあなたがなぜ今頃になって心変わりをしたの？まさか私に譲ったから惜しくなってとかじゃないわよね。
はい。
惜しいものか。そなたがそうだと信じている無限の魔法など魔法にあらず。真の魔法の力とはそなたなどでは到底至れぬ深淵にあるのだ。
それに気づいたから？それは何？
それに気づけず1000年をさまよえ愚かな魔女よ。
It is a very fitting track. Oh, this feels so nice.
ねえ、今度は3つ。
Not that Beato is in pain. It's just... It's very cool. I like it. Despite being tortured, she's standing up to Evatrice, I guess. It's a bit of a role reversal because I'm getting a similar feeling as when in the first few episodes Canon was standing up to Beatrice. It's the same kind of like, oh yes, you tell her, you stand your ground no matter what happens. It's that kind of thing. Yeah. They continued embroidering. Oh, sorry, I didn't read that. Or. Oh no, okay. It's fine, I didn't miss anything. They continued embroidering Beato's chest with the gold thread. It tightened even more, causing Beato more and more pain.
まあ、いいわ。
Umineko and role reversals name a more iconic duo. Yes, pretty much.
死に損ないのババアが何を達観したかなんてもう興味も何もない。もう飽きたからあっさり殺してあげるわ。あんたを殺せば客間の結界は解ける。そしたらカノンとジェシカもたっぷりいじめ殺してあげるわね。愛し合う二人を同時におもちゃにできるなんてこれは楽しそうよね。殺せ。
Ay ay ay. Without missing by a millimeter, the cold sewing thread shot through Beato's heart. That intense pain was worse than all of the pain before death put together. Beato finally remembered the actual feeling of dying, which she had forgotten over 1,000 years. But she couldn't die. She must not die. If she died, the two in the parlor would be handed over to the brutal witch. So she definitely couldn't die. She resolutely refused to die.
新しきベアトリーチェよ、頼みがある。客間の2人の仰せは短い時間のものだ。砂時計で測れる程度の時間でカノンは冥府へ消えるだろう。その程度の時間をどうか許してはくれぬか。
I don't think she will.
いやよ。
Of course not.
愛し合う二人を引き裂くのって楽しいんでしょ？あなたが言ったわ。だから私やってみたいの。
ならばその快楽、貴様に味わわせるわけにはいかぬ。楽しいぞ、恋人たちを引き裂くのは。
そうよね。きっと楽しいわよね。だから邪魔しないで。もっと縫え。縫え縫え縫え。にひ410了解。
sure happy to abide. Oh lord. The merciless gold sewing needle sewed its golden thread through Beato's heart over and over again. However, no matter how much it tightened, that heart did not stop.
まだまだこの程度では死んではやれぬ。
何をしてるの？このババアのおしゃべりを止めなさい。早く殺すのよ。殺してます。何度も心臓を縫い止めてるのに、こいつの心臓止まらないんです。あんた不死身なの？
まさかそなたに無限は譲り渡した。鼓動を刻める数など残すところもたかが知れている。だがそれを一つ余計に刻むことでこの部屋の二人にわずかでも長い時間を与えられるなら、その程度の抵抗を永遠に続けようぞ。
縫え！こいつの心臓が動きを止めるまで縫い続けよう。なんでこいつ死なないの？ありえない。心臓を縫いしばってるのになんで止まらないの？ならいいや、心臓を内側から爆破してやるに。かわいそうに逆らわなければ綺麗に死ねてるに。
Okay, I get the point. Alright. The gold needle and thread made round trips over and over again as they spoke, and still battle didn't expire. The barbarous witch was at last starting to turn pale at how unnatural this was.
お前、一体何者なの？
そなたにはわからぬだろうな。わらわにわからなかったさ。だがな、どうやらこれが本当の魔法というものらしいぞ。つまりわらわは今こそなった。本当の魔女になった。
心臓内部で爆心固定。新刊準備よし。爆破。
There was a deafening sound, and gold leaf and a flutter of gold butterflies were scattered around the area. Beto's chest had opened wide from the inside, and from that gold butterflies and gold leaf erupted, staining the surrounding area gold. Then Beto's body crumpled. Like a puppet whose strings had been cut, she crumpled and sank down to the floor. However, in the air, a gold heart, tied by gold threads, floated and continued to beat.
そんな。化け物だ。
When the Chester sisters saw that, they fell on their behinds in shock. Somehow, even though Beato had become nothing more than a heart, it still kept beating, continuing to protect the barrier to the parlor. It was an immeasurably immense magical power, impossible to measure. In other words, infinite and endless. Okay, goosebumps moment.
無限の魔女は私でしょ。なんでこのババアこんなになっても生きてんのよ。シエスタ姉妹、あの心臓を砕くのよ。早く。無理です。申し訳ありません。私たちにはできません。
無理でしょう。何人たりともあの心臓を打ち砕けはしません。竜王陛下の兵士風情ではとてもとても。
なら無限の魔女である私になら打ち砕けるということでしょう。
私の力は神の力だもの。
恐れながら、あなた様の力ではベアトリーチェ様の無限には傷一つつけられません。
それはどういう意味よ。
影を知らずして光がないように、有限を知らずして無限もまたなし。ベアトリーチェお嬢様の真の無限の力の前に、あなた様の脆弱な魔力ではとてもとても及びません。
Oh, this feels so good.
何よそれ。
The cruel witch stepped back in surprise. It was more transparent than a lace curtain, but Beato's form, no, Beatrice's form was still standing there. Even after taking on this wretched appearance, she would not allow evil through that door. At that time, a shadow just as faint as Beatrice stood behind her. It was Canon.
ベアトリーチェ様、ありがとうございました。このご恩は忘れません。
恩の数が恨みの数を超えたら、その言葉をもう一度聞こうぞ。もう良いのか。
はい、本当にありがとうございました。そしてベアトリーチェ様ももう大丈夫です。どうかお楽になさってください。
そうか、もう良いのか。
何よ。なんであんたたちは先代のババアをベアトリーチェと呼ぶのよ。ベアトリーチェは私の名前でしょ。新しき黄金の魔女、そして無限の魔女である私の名前のはずよ。
無礼な。ベアトリーチェ様の名を語るな。
恐れながら、ベアトリーチェ様の名は無限の魔女を冠せられるお方が名乗られるべきもの。今や先代はあなた様を指すものでございますよ。
さらばだ。どうせすぐに出会うさ。新しき悪夢で。
新しい夜の悪夢にて再びベアトリーチェ様のお供を。これで失礼いたします。
In a new nightmare, oh yeah. I don't know, I feel like this moment here is so fragile, so precious that I don't want to think that we were gonna move on to something else. That might, I don't know, tarnish it? Canon's form grew faint and he disappeared into thin air. After watching him go, Beatrice's form also grew faint. And before disappearing, it slumped over onto the floor. Then there was a splat. The golden heart, which had been floating in midair, had lost its sparkle, become blood-stained flesh, and fallen to the ground. There will be a good stomping point in about 10-15 minutes. I'm afraid the stomping point has to be now. I think it's... I feel like I'm at my limit. Now isn't bad either. Okay, thank you. How frail it was. It was ragged and full of holes. But until just now it had sparkled so much and had continued to beat forcefully. That heart still barely managed to beat. However, it was only a matter of time before it stopped. Beatrice, whose form had become fragile and faint like incense smoke, lay on the floor, steadily watching her own heart. There, the cruel witch could be seen.
何が無限よ。 現にこうしてぶっ倒れてるじゃない。有限のある無限なんてそんな矛盾存在するわけもない。これがあんたの魔法の限界なのよ。有限は無限に劣る。
Beatrice no longer had the energy even to respond. No, in fact, it was doubtful whether the words of the cruel witch even reached her ears.
あんたが本当に無限の魔女なら立ち上がってみなさいよ。どう？立てないでしょ？どうして立てないと思う？あんたが無限の魔女じゃないからよ。
The merciless witch poked Beatrice's heart with her fingernail. Beatrice had no words with which to respond to that provocation. However, instead of words, she returned a single expression. It looked insulting only to the cruel witch. Because she had gently curved her mouth and smiled. Right. I think this is it. This is perfect. Okay. Oh my god. If you had told me I would be crying for Beatrice, I wouldn't have believed you. And yet here we are. That was... I don't know, I don't have words. Like, good, awesome, amazing, like, they pale. Yeah, epic. Okay, epic can work. Next time will be even more cray-cray? Okay, if it's the same type of cray-cray, like an extension of this, I'm all for it, let's go. Only episode 3, I mean, yeah, I mean... it's the 29th stream. We've been doing this for quite a while. My streams are about 2.5 hours each, so that means we've been doing it for over a long time. Oh god. I don't want to... Is that like around 75 hours? Oh my god. Okay. The emotional roller coaster has no brakes. Oh god, okay. Well, I'm gonna be all for it. And next time, actually, there's lots of cool things ahead. Okay. Okay, looking forward to it. And next time actually will be in less than 24 hours, because this week I'm gonna do Wednesday. I think I mentioned it before I took a break for last week, that I have something going on for work in the afternoon/evening of Thursday. So I cannot stream then, and then I will stream tomorrow, if you can manage to make it. If not, I know it's off schedule and a little bit unusual, and that is alright, but I will be here and I will read for 2.5 hours, and then the VOD will also be there if you want to check it out later. So yeah, I guess I will see you then if you can make it. And yeah, like I said, if not, that's also fine. And it will be just this week. From next week we go back to the usual schedule. Okie dokie. I think I said it in this. Yeah, I said it in the countdown underneath the stream, so it's visible. Any day, anytime. Oh, there. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. Thanks so much for joining. And in such a nice number, even after a break. It's amazing how dedicated you guys are to this story, and that you enjoying it with me. I appreciate that. It's a wonderful experience. So let's keep going. Alright. Looking forward to it myself. For now, I'm gonna go rest because my eyelids feel very, very heavy. But I will definitely have a very good restful sleep after this. This was nice. This, yeah. Okay. I live for moments like this, so I hope there's more ahead. Yeah. For now, take care, night night, and it was great to spend these 2.5 hours with you again. even through the madness that was last week and the lack of sleep and everything, I did miss it. So happy to be back, and see you tomorrow. Night night.